Welcome, listeners of Illusion, to another episode of I Think I Read Somewhere on Temporal Discussion. I am Jake Collins, and I'm about to do a playthrough of the quest section of Knightmare the Forbidden Gate, which was written by Dave Morris and published by Yearling in 1992. This particular Knightmare quest section, the quest for the dragon's egg, was requested by Amy Davies, and I'm going to do it in a particular way that I hope you will find interesting, Amy, particularly after what you were saying on the Knightmare forum about doing a playthrough of this one with your transatlantic friends. The rules of the quest. Your life force status has 3 levels: green, amber, and red. You begin the adventure on green since you are as yet unwounded. During the adventure it is possible for you to gain or lose life force levels. For instance, if you were on amber and were told to lose a level, your life force status would change to red. Once you are on red, any further loss of life force will kill you. You also have skills, uniquely to this book, listeners. You start with 1 skill chosen from the list given below. Ironically, it's not below, it's on the next page. Acrobatics, fisticuffs, gambling, seamanship, swimming, swordplay, thievery, trading. Make a note of the skill you choose, as it will affect the options available to you. It says there you start with 1 skill. It is possible to end up with 2 under certain circumstances. I asked Amy to pick for me, to challenge me to use on this quest the skill that she thought was least useful. I had thought that perhaps acrobatics was the least useful skill, but looking again, that's not at all the case, because it can be used under one very specific circumstance to get you free passage on the ship. You can travel as part of the crew, as a topman, but it's not one of the options offered just off the bat for how you can arrange your passage on the ship, and I'll mention the point where that one very specific circumstance makes acrobatics extremely useful. Amy reckoned, and I think she's absolutely right, gambling and trading were the least useful, and I said I'd like to do the quest with the trading skill, because that would be more interesting, and gambling involves a lot of die rolling, which I don't think is very good for this sort of thing. So we're starting with the trading skill. Keep a note of items as you come across them. You can carry up to 5 items at a time. If you find an item that you think might come in handy, but you already have 5 other items, you will have to discard one. There are some occasions when you may get the chance to purchase things. For this reason, it is worth keeping any money you find. You can carry up to 50 gold coins in your money pouch, and this still counts as just 1 item. It is possible you might learn spells during your adventure. Each spell can be used only once. Keep a note of any spells you acquire. You can eat an item of food at any entry marked with an asterisk. Each item of food you eat when wounded increases your life force by 1 level. Now begin. You'll notice Dave doesn't tell us anything about being good and true and virtuous in this one. I suppose that would be rather at odds with some of the skills, and the very object of the quest, to go and rob a nest, is extremely unvirtuous, and I don't approve of it at all. What would Raven say about it, I always think? He would only ever condone stealing from a nest if there are no eggs in it from any living creature, but rather gold treasure rings. However, in this quest, your objective is to steal an unhatched egg from a living creature, the Earth Dragon. So that's a terrible thing to do, really, but let's go ahead and do it anyway, because it's only pretend. 1. It is time for you to set out. I haven't chosen the swordplay or thievery skill, so Tregard gives me a purse containing 25 gold pieces. He then draws a velvet curtain aside. Beyond lies an archway filled with flat black shadow. Without needing to ask, you know that it is a magical portal that will take you to the first port of call on your quest. Just as you are about to step through, however, Pickle says, "Surely you ought to give at least a smattering of advice, Master." Tregard strokes his beard. He says, "Then my impish attendant suggests you take advice, but perhaps you'd rather have something more substantial. If you ask for advice, turn to 52. If you ask for rations, turn to 61. If you ask for weaponry, turn to 70. I'm off to 52. "Very well," says Tregard. "You are wise to set great store by information. It is a rash adventurer who embarks on a quest without first finding out what must be done. The earth dragon's eggs may be distinguished by their gold speckling. The dragon itself is said to dwell in a volcanic cavern somewhere among the Draconis Islands. You will need to find a ship to take you there, but I warn you that hiring a passage on a ship costs quite a lot of money. More than you have at present, certainly. Nodding, you turn and step into the blackness of the magic portal. Involuntarily, fearing the dark, you close your eyes. A moment of coldness washes over you, then suddenly you feel bright, warm sunlight. You open your eyes to see where you have arrived. Turn to 42. You are on a quayside. The gentle sea breeze does little to disperse the powerful smells of salt, tar, fish, and human sweat. All around you bustle hordes of sailors and longshoremen, busily loading ships or unpacking wares ready to take to market. You glance up as the sun is blotted out for a moment. You see the tall furled sails of a large merchant ship being brought into dock. Her prow is carved in the shape of a dragon. Your gaze travels down to the name painted at the bows, the Pendragon. Even as you watch, mooring lines are tossed over to the quay and longshoremen secure them. A gangplank is lowered. You are about to step over to the ship when a loud psst attracts your attention. Sitting in the shaded window of a dockside tavern, you see a swarthy fellow wearing a red silk shirt and black pantaloons. He has a gold ring in his ear, and his teeth flash as he gives you a grin. "Don't waste your time on merchantmen," he calls out. "If it's adventure you're after, Captain Quimada is your man." If you go over to the Pendragon, turn to 11. If you approach the stranger who's called to you, turn to 21. If you ask a passerby for advice, turn to 31. Here is the one and only chance to use the trading skill, listeners. So I better do so, hadn't I? And I'm going to try and make the absolute best of it that I can. 31. You select a plump, minever-coated trader who has an honest face. On the subject of adventure, he says, I can readily advise you that you must first purchase supplies. They are essential to any voyage. By good fortune, my cousin runs a ship's chandler's just a few streets from here. I should be glad to show you the way. If you go with him to the ship's chandler's, turn to 41. If you enter the tavern to see the man who called to you, turn to 21. If you now want to seek a berth aboard the Pendragon, turn to 11. I'll go to the ship's chandler's. He takes you to the shop of his cousin, Julius Scaramounger. The shop is crammed with merchandise from all corners of the world. There are curved swords of finest Damascus steel, treasure maps, books of ancient lore, and any number of charms or talismans. You might spend forever browsing here, but the thrill of adventure spurs you on until you have selected just a few items that you might really need. Julius Scaramounger looks you up and down, narrowing his eyes disdainfully as he spots your meagre money pouch. Then, taking a piece of chalk, he sets a price for each of the items. Sword, 20 gold pieces. Ship's biscuit, food, 2 gold pieces. Beef jerky, food, 3 gold pieces. Compass, 22 gold pieces. Lucky charm, 5 gold pieces. If you have the trading skill, which I do, you can reduce these costs after a bout of fierce haggling to sword, 16 gold pieces, biscuit, 1 gold piece, beef jerky, 2 gold pieces, compass, 16 gold pieces, lucky charm, 4 gold pieces. You may notice, listeners, that if I didn't have the trading skill and I spent 22 gold pieces on the compass, I'd only then have 3 gold pieces left, so I couldn't also buy a lucky charm, which costs 5 gold pieces. But with my trading skill, I am going to buy both of those, which cost me 20 gold pieces in total. I'll also get some jerky for 2 gold pieces, which leaves me 3 gold pieces left in my purse. That's my first item. Second item, compass. Third item, lucky charm. Fourth item, beef jerky. Now note down the purchases you make, if any, and then return to the quayside by turning to 51. On the way back to the docks, you are stopped and asked for directions by a furtive, bearded man in ragged robes. He gives a big grin when you finally manage to point him the right way, showing the glint of a gold tooth as he does. It is only as you are stepping out onto the quayside again that you remember where you saw the man's face before. It was on a wanted poster in the foyer of Knightmare Castle. He is Sylvester Hans, a notorious thief and rogue. If you have any money left in your pouch, you now discover that half of it is missing. For example, if you had 9 gold pieces, then you now have only 5, because you round fractions up in your favour. You know what, listeners? Hans can just have that 1 gold piece he's taken off me, and I'll be quite happy with 2. You dejectedly return to the docks to seek passage aboard the Pendragon. Turn to 11. I'm really not dejected. I had 3 gold pieces, I've now got 2, and I don't think I need to spend any more anyway, so no big deal. The first sailors are just coming ashore as you reach the gangplank. By eavesdropping on their chatter, you soon learn that the Pendragon is bound for the Draconis Islands. When you inquire as to the cost of passage, however, you are greeted by a jeer. "Behold our fine ship! Does such a poor waif as you have the money to hire a berth aboard her? Hardly." If you persist in going aboard to see the captain, turn to 3. If you decide you'd better find a bit more money first, you can now either go to the tavern, turn to 21, or else look around for employment, turn to 69. He's been very patient, that chap in the tavern, hasn't he? So I think I'll go and talk to him now. Captain Quamada has a friendly enough manner, but you cannot help thinking there is something a bit sinister about him. Or if not sinister, at least roguish. Perhaps it is just a stiletto strapped to his boot and the longsword propped against his stool, but he strikes you as a fellow who gets to see more than a dash of the seedy side of life. As you gingerly take a stool at his table, he calls over the barmaid with a full tankard for you. "Well," he says, "what brings you to these parts, young traveller?" If you ask him how to go about finding a dragon's egg, turn to 27. If you ask him about getting passage aboard a ship, turn to 37. If you decide against talking to him, turn to 47. Bit late for that, isn't it? Oh, why don't I just tell him all about my quest for the dragon's egg? What's the worst that could happen? Make a note of the code word crossbones. Oh, I will do so. Quamada scratches his jaw. It's a dragon's egg you're after, is it? Such things are rare and highly prized, especially by dragons. But it is said that a dragon sleeps under the volcanic peak of one of the Draconis Isles. I wish you luck if it's there you're bound. Thanking him for the drink and the advice, you take your leave and saunter up the gangplank of the Pendragon. Turn to 3. "Captain Torbuck is a busy man," the boatswain tells you once you have announced yourself. "Even now he is poring over the charts for our coming voyage, a daring venture that takes us past the Draconis Isles. How can I arrange passage on the ship, you ask him. He gives a great guffaw as he looks you up and down. As to that, well, maybe you have skills that will be handy on a long sea voyage. If so, you might travel for free. More likely you'll have to pay 20 guilders for a berth. I haven't got 20 guilders, I've got 2 guilders, but that may not turn out to be a problem. After ascertaining that you have a week before the Pendragon sails, you go ashore and start giving some thought to how you'll pay for the journey. Of course, you may be confident that you have the expertise necessary to join the ship's company, but to be on the safe side, perhaps you should find gainful employment in the meantime. If you have the fisticuff skill, turn to 78. If you have the thievery skill, turn to 95. If you have the gambling skill, turn to 87. Otherwise, turn to 2. You're going to have to find some other way of making the money you need. You spend several days racking your brains, but no plan occurs to you. It is almost the time set for the Pendragon's departure, when strolling along a lane some distance from the seafront, you hear someone calling from a narrow window. "Sacre mihi!" If you decide to investigate, turn to 6. If not, turn to 12. Well, I'd better, hadn't I? Something useful might happen. You enter the building and climb the stairs, which bring you to a room where magical chalk marks adorn the polished floorboards. There is a scent of incense from a copper bowl, beside which stands a tall magisterial figure with striking red streaks in his white hair. You recognize him by reputation. Hordris the Confuser, a great wizard. "KV," he says as you enter. At first you don't know what he means, then you understand it was Latin. Beware. You glance at the other end of the room, where you now behold a crouching demon, flanks like steaming blood, glitters of firelight in its eyes. It is pawing at the chalk outlines of a star-shaped design, which appears to confine it as an ordinary creature would be confined by a cage. "Hic Diabolus, I beg your pardon. This demon," says Hordris to you, "has manifested in answer to a spell of mine, but refuses to depart until I can dismiss it in the name of its monarch. But the only clue it would give me is res dana, which is dog Latin for given things, or some such." You are about to make a suggestion when something occurs to you. What happens if we get the answer wrong? Don't you know anything? Hordris snorts. The demon would then break out of the pentacle and kill us, of course. If, in the light of this, you decide to leave without making a suggestion, turn to 12. If you think you know the name of the demon's monarch, turn to 16. Well, what do you think? Is it Isandra of Winteria, turn to 26, Lord Fear, turn to 36, the Gate Master, turn to 46? I'm going to plump for Isandra. The demon gives a howl, turns icy blue, and vanishes in a puff of snowflakes. Phew, says Hordris, mopping his brow. Which is to say, very well done, that adventurer, top marks. Glad to be of help, you say, turning to go. No, wait, says Hordris. First, let me reward you. He lifts a book from his desk and touches it to your forehead. Suddenly your mind is filled with a succession of marvellous facts, all instilled there by a process much less time-consuming than ordinary learning. You can now add one of these skills, your choice, to the one you have already. Fisticuffs, seamanship, or trading. That is mean, putting trading in there. There's no way left to use it. I'm taking fisticuffs. Nor is that all. He also offers to teach you a spell by the same method. You can learn either the sneak or walk on water spell. Once you have chosen the one you want, he touches you with the book, and lo and behold, you acquire the knowledge to cast the spell once. I'm going to choose the walk on water spell, listeners, but don't worry, there is method to my madness. It beats swatting, you tell Hordris with a smile. Then, taking your leave of him, you return to the street. Turn to 12. On your way back to the docks, you see a jester who is entertaining people by juggling some wooden skittles. If you want to pause a while and listen to his patter, turn to 32. If you are anxious to get aboard the Pendragon before she sets sail, turn to 60. Sorry, Motley, not today. You can see the mast of the Pendragon over the closely clustered roofs. The mainsail has already been hoisted. She is about to cast off. Quickening your pace, you push through the milling crowds, ignoring the curses and insults of those you bump into. Just then you hear a cry for help coming from an alleyway. There is also a sound like the snarling of a frightened cat. You turn your head to see a plump, middle-aged woman struggling to retrieve her cat from two beggars who have seized it, obviously with the intention of making it their lunchtime meal. One of the beggars is forcing the cat into a cooking pot while the other restrains the woman who is trying to hit him with her broom. If you step in to help the woman, then you might miss your ship. Turn to 13 if you decide to chance it. If you can't afford the time to get involved, you hasten to the quay and go aboard the Pendragon. Turn to 23. Of course I'm going to help. With a great cry of "You scoundrels!" you hurl yourself at the two beggars. They react in plain astonishment. One drops the cooking pot, and the cat takes advantage of this to rake its claws across his face. The other, distracted, releases the woman's arms, and so gets the shaft of her broom across his thin shoulders. After the initial surprise, the beggars take up cudgels, and a half-hearted struggle ensues. You eventually succeed in driving them off, suffering the loss of one life force grade in the process. Exception: if you have the swordplay or fisticuff skill, you lose no life force. Oh good, I lose no life force. As they run, one of them bleats, "'Tisn't fair! What are we supposed to do about lunch now?" The woman is out of breath after her exertions with the broom. If you want to speak to her, turn to 33. If you hurry to board the Pendragon, turn to 23. Oh, let's speak to her, shall we? "By jiggery, that were grand," says the woman when she's got her breath back. "Did you see them monkeys flee, pusillanimous?" She picks up the cat and strokes it, provoking a deep, contented purr. "Glad to be of help, you say. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a ship to catch." "Hang about," she says, grabbing your arm. "I can't let you run off without a reward, can I? You saved my poor old familiar from ending up in a stew after all. Here you go." She takes a large apple from her apron and polishes it on her sleeve before handing it to you. "It's a golden malicious," she explains. "Don't go eating it, mind. Give it to someone or something that you want to get rid of." "Is it poisonous?" you say, staring at the apple aghast. You doubt if Tregard would consider any use of poison to be within the strictures of chivalry. "Nay, just a mite tricksy-like. You know, magical." Remembering your quest, you pocket the golden malicious apple and rush back to the main street. Your heart almost leaps into your mouth when you see the Pendragon, her sails now billowing in the wind, moving out from the dock towards the harbour mouth. "Oh no," you say, "I've missed the boat." Well, that's the end of that, isn't it, listeners? Oh, apparently not. If you have the swimming skill, turn to 43. If you have the acrobatics skill, turn to 53. If you have neither of those, turn to 62. That is the specific occasion I mentioned where the acrobatics skill will earn you free passage on the ship as a topman. So if you've taken the acrobatics skill and you want to get a free ride on the Pendragon, this is the path to take. I have neither of those skills, so I shall turn to 62. Don't fret, love, says the old woman. I've got a trick or two as might help, or my name's not Witch Hazel. Yes, but what, you start to ask? She sits astride her broom and gets you to do the same. You begin to suspect what's coming next. When you see the way her cat, Pusillanimous, is clinging to her skirts in terror, you also suspect that it might be rather hair-raising. "Hey up!" shouts Hazel. "Broom, broom, make with the vroom!" You shoot up into the air like a ball from a cannon. It feels as if your stomach comes along a few seconds later. Hazel is laughing with the sheer thrill of the ride, but you feel decidedly queasy. A glance at the cat tells you that he shares your reservations. "Which ship is it you want?" Hazel calls back over her shoulder. The one with the dragon prow," you reply without looking down. The broom plummets out of the sky, slowing at the last possible moment to make a bumpy landing on the deck of the Pendragon. With a cheery wave, Hazel takes off again, leaving you to negotiate your passage with the ship's captain. Turn to 23. Captain Tarbuck is a short man with an air of quiet authority. He listens to your request with a stern gaze that is belied by the half-smile that flickers on his lips. "Do you have handy seafaring skills, or such martial prowess as might aid us against pirates?" he inquires. "If so, you are welcome to join the ship's company and may sail with us for nothing. Otherwise, you must pay a fee for your passage, 40 gold pieces. If you have the sword-play or seamanship skill, you can travel free of charge. You can also do this if you possess a compass, since such an item will be useful to Captain Tarbuck. Otherwise, if you can pay the 40 gold pieces, cross off this sum. If your passage has now been arranged, turn to 44. If you do not have either skill, the compass, or enough money, then you are turned off the Pendragon and your adventure ends here. I wasn't lying, was I, about the acrobatics skill not being an option there? You have to show them your acrobatics under that specific circumstance in order to travel for free that way. I haven't got the swordplay or seamanship skill. I've got 2 gold pieces, which is 38 gold pieces short, but I do have a compass. Can't imagine why Captain Tarbuck didn't think to bring one himself, but apparently he didn't, so he's going to use mine, and thus my passage has been arranged. I'm giving you the compass, Captain. I'm not volunteering to make every single command decision on the whole voyage. Perhaps you'll bear in mind. Then again, perhaps you won't. Only one day out from port, you spot a raft in the distance. "It looks to be from a shipwreck," states Captain Tarbuck as you draw nearer. You can see a solitary figure aboard the raft, a slim, waif-like young woman in the tattered and salt-stained gown of a sorceress. If you recommend picking up the shipwreck survivor, turn to 72. If you think it would be better to sail away and leave her, turn to 81. Or let's pick her up. Captain Tarbuck is swayed by your compassionate words. "Aye, that is the right thing to do," he agrees. He orders the helmsman to alter course so that the young woman can be picked up. She climbs gratefully aboard and gives her name as Vestella, an apprentice mage. "We had an unfortunate accident aboard the ship I was travelling on," she says with a guilty smile. "The hull was leaking a bit, you see, so I did a spell to bail water. I think I must have got the syllables reversed, though, because the bucket suddenly leapt up into the air and started collecting more and more seawater and pouring it into the hold. Finally, the ship sank, of course. If only I could have remembered the counterspell." After making sure that she will not try to help the Pendragon out with any of her magic, Captain Tarbuck goes off to oversee the crew. You are left standing by the rail talking to Vestella. If you ask her advice concerning dragon's eggs, turn to 89. If you ask her to help you acquire a dragon's egg, turn to 5. If you ask what she knows about the waters you're travelling through, turn to 15. I think that last one sounds the safest with an accident-prone sorceress. "A couple of things, actually," she replies in answer to your query. "First, there's an island inhabited by short, spindly critters with milk-white skin. These look gormless, but are actually flesh-eating goblins called Yumbos. Secondly, on the island of Blepharus, there are 2 tribes, one with golden eyes, the other with green. One bunch or the other is prone to telling lies. Can't remember which is which, though." She pulls out a grimoire and leafs through it, then scratches her head. "No, it isn't in here. Oh well." Note down the code word ocular, and then turn to 81. The Pendragon sails on under velvet blue skies with just a few high wisps of lacy cloud. The days pass. You begin to make friends among the crew, who are a jovial bunch with many tall stories of the exotic ports they've visited. In one city there is a colossal genie which stands astride the harbour mouth, the cabin boy tells you. If you try to evade the harbour tax, he reaches down and plucks your ship from the water. On the 5th day out, you sight land. As it comes closer, you can make out a group of gangling white figures lounging around idly on the beach. They show little interest in the Pendragon other than emitting doleful bleats when hailed. They seem to be barely 2 feet tall, observes the captain. What do you take them to be, albino pygmies? Who knows, replies the second mate, but notice the coconut palms beyond the beach. It would make a welcome change from dry biscuit. If you suggest taking a rowboat into shore to collect some coconuts, turn to 35. If you caution against going ashore, turn to 25. Doesn't give you the option to leave the decision up to Captain Tarbuck and his officers, so I guess I'm going to caution against going ashore based on what Vestella just told me. The crew grumble. They had been looking forward to the mouth-watering selection of coconuts, dates, and crabs that they could have got from the island. Bear in mind that our young adventurer friend here has travelled widely, the first mate tells them. Prudent advice of such quality is hard to come by. As you sail on, one of the crew fixes you with a surly frown.
What prudent advice to one person might seem like lily-livered timidity to another,
he remarks over his shoulder to the other sailors. If you decide to teach the fellow a lesson, turn to 45. If you let the remark pass, turn to 90. Well, I'm not going to get into an unnecessary fight. That can be extremely dangerous, listeners, even though I do have the fisticuff skill. But as Vestella is on the ship with me, I'm going to get her to back me up that those are in fact flesh-eating goblins, and that's why we're not going to land there. And then I think they'll all be rather grateful for my sage advice. Actually, let's go to 90. Another day passes before land is sighted again. We must go ashore here, asserts the captain, as we need to stock up on fresh water. While the Pendragon rides at anchor, a rowboat is sent over to the shore. You volunteer to be part of the away team, which also comprises the boatswain, the second mate, and 3 ordinary seamen. On reaching the shore, you are greeted by a number of the island's inhabitants. You cannot understand their language, but they seem friendly enough. The odd thing is, some of them have yellow eyes, while others have green eyes. We need to know whether to steer southeast or southwest to reach the Draconis Islands, the boatswain tells you. These chaps ought to know, but we can only communicate by nods and shakes of the head. That means you have to ask a yes-no question, but with only 2 choices of direction, that should be no problem. If you ask a yellow-eyed islander, turn to 55. If you ask a green-eyed islander, turn to 64. If you have the code word ocular, turn to 74. I do have that code word. First things first, you draw a picture of a dragon in the sand. Then you select one of the green-eyed islanders, and by pointing at the horizon, you manage to make yourself understood. He nods to indicate you should sail southeast. Next you do the same thing, only this time setting the question to a yellow-eyed islander. He seems to be saying you should head southwest. Next comes the tricky part. After much gesturing, you manage to get the yellow-eyed islander to understand a more complicated question. What direction, you ask him, would a green-eyed islander tell you to sail? His answer to this is to say they would say to go southeast. So, do you know which way to go now? Well, yes, I do, actually, because it's that classic one tells the truth and one lies puzzle. Your mission over, you row back to the ship. Turn to 83. As you continue on from the strange island of Blefforus, Captain Tarbuck asks your advice as to which way to steer in order to reach the Draconis Isles. Should it be southeast or southwest, he wonders. If you say southwest, turn to 7. If you recommend heading southeast, turn to 17. It's southwest. After many days' sailing, you reach the distant and fabulous Draconis Isles. The captain comes to stand beside you at the rail and points to an island with a steep, jungle-covered mountain rising from the centre. That is rumoured to be the home of the Earth Dragon, he says. I have no wish to visit it, in view of the dragon's fearsome reputation, but I can set you ashore here, and then collect you in a few days when we have been to some of the other islands and gathered the gems that are said to be strewn on the beaches there. You agree to be put ashore. Many of the sailors have become your bosom cronies by now, and they cluster round to shake your hand and wish you good luck. But you notice a tear in the eye of the cook, an old fellow of kindly disposition. So young, he weeps as he grips your hand. It is a heartfelt but hardly encouraging sentiment. After watching the Pendragon sail off, you turn your attention to the island. Turn to 91. You make your way up the steep slopes of the dormant volcano that rises from the centre of the island. The jungle is thick with creepers and vines that you have to struggle through, and several times you have to pause to rest. But at last, when you reach the top, it is worth the climb. The whole island is laid out beneath you, a breathtaking swathe of gold-fringed greenery in the rich azure of the ocean. You glance down into the crater of the mountain. Fierce waves of dry, furnace-like heat rise up from the bowels of the rock. Staring down, you can just make out the glimmering of light in the darkness, and you see that there is a narrow ledge winding down. There is nothing for it but to descend into the volcano. Turn to 28. As your eyes adjust to the dim reddish glow, you see shapes moving up and down the hollow middle of the volcano. Peering intently as one drifts near to you, you see it is a bizarre creature that might be some kind of bat, insect, bird, or flying lizard, or perhaps something else entirely. In fact, it reminds you of nothing quite so much as an angelfish by reason of its eerie grace and fragile beauty. It has huge, thin wings, frilled and shimmering with many colours, and a large, pale head with no torso to speak of. Though human-like in general features, it has only vestigial eyes. Catching sight of you, not that vestigial, its wide mouth gapes and it swims closer on the thermal currents rising from below. You realise you must deal with it before it draws attention to you and possibly alerts the dragon sleeping under the mountain. If you try speaking to the odd creature, turn to 38. If you have a sneak spell and want to use it, turn to 48. If you have a golden malicious apple and decide to make use of it now, turn to 57. Oh yes, I'll do that. You toss the apple straight into the peculiar creature's open mouth. It gives a comical gulp and swallows the apple without thinking. A moment later, sparks shoot out of its ears. It turns bright magenta in colour, and an instant later vanishes like a bubble popping, leaving only a scent like burnt honeysuckle in the air. The others of its species are too far off to notice you. As they frolic unawares in the warm updrafts, you continue down to the bottom of the crater. The ground is warm here, and there are lava-filled cracks in the rock here and there, but it is not too much for you to stand. You set out in search of dragon eggs, but almost at once you see a sight that makes your blood run cold despite the great heat. The earth dragon is coiled up not 20 paces from you. If it were to awaken, you could measure your remaining lifetime in split seconds. Turn to 93. If you earlier learned the sneak spell and haven't used it yet, turn to 9. Oh dear, I turned down the chance to learn the sneak spell, didn't I? Otherwise, you must try to creep past the dragon as quietly as you can. Roll 1 die. If you score 4 or less, turn to 19. If you score 5 or 6, turn to 29. It was a 4, listeners. I shall have to turn to 19. Your boot crunches on a patch of gravel. The sound echoes ominously in the cavernous shaft. If you have a lucky charm, turn to 49. If not, turn to 58 and get barbecued. The patch of gravel crunches loudly under your weight. At once every muscle in your body locks rigid in alarm. You can hear your heartbeat thumping in your ears. The dragon gives a great snore like the sound of a thunderbolt splitting oak tree. It stirs in its sleep, dreaming of whatever it is that dragons dream. Then it flicks its tail lazily, turns over and goes back to sleep. Phew. You wipe the sweat out of your eyes and go on. Then you notice a group of hard, round objects in the flickering volcano light. They must be the dragon's eggs. Turn to 39. What a good thing I had that lucky charm, wasn't it, listeners? And of course I couldn't have afforded that and the compass without the trading skill. The eggs, if that really is what they are, look like round boulders the size of coconuts. Most are plain grey in colour. Well, those are just rocks, aren't they? But a few are covered in gold speckling. You try lifting one. It is so heavy that it counts as 3 items. That means you will only be able to carry one of these eggs. Decide whether you will take a plain grey one or one with gold speckles, and make a note of this. Well, I can take my gold speckled egg. Then, your quest nearly at an end, you return up the shaft and make your way back to the shore. Turn to 68. If you have the code word crossbones, turn to 86. If not, turn to 77. I do have that code word. I hope it doesn't mean I've made some horrible mistake. Let's find out. You are amazed to find Captain Quamada waiting for you on the beach, along with his crew. You have never seen such a bloodthirsty bunch of cutthroats. Glancing beyond them, you see the rowboat in which they have come ashore. Some way out from the coast, Quamada's galley lies at anchor. Hunched over the oars, Quamada's slaves stare sullenly at the drama unfolding on the beach. "Ahar, my fine adventuring friend," says Quamada. "Well met." There is no doubt why he's here. Fearing to enter the dragon's den himself, he has decided to plunder your hard-won prize from you. You should never have told him of your plans. Oh, what a silly I am. If you have the walk on water spell, turn to 30. Otherwise, there's no way for you to take on Quamada and all his pirate band. He takes the egg and, laughing lustily, leaves you stranded there. Turn to 77. Oh, it's a good thing I took that walk on water spell, isn't it? Let's see what I'm going to do with it. The spell lets you move across water as easily as on dry land. I should hope so, otherwise it'd be false advertising. Reciting it, you immediately race straight out towards Quamada's galley. "Into the rowboat!" screams Quamada at his men. "Give chase!" Scrambling madly, they start to row back from the shore. By the time they are only halfway, though, you have already reached the galley. The slaves look up from the oars to which they are chained. "Free us," they say, "and we'll help you escape from the pirate chief." "We hate him as much as you do," says one man. "More," puts in another with feeling. Captain Quamada looks up with an expression of amazement and rage as he sees his galley weighing anchor and moving out to sea. He stands up in the rowboat and shakes his fist at you. "Come back here," he snarls. "As Davy Jones is my witness, I'll see you keel-hauled for this. I'll see you flayed alive." "Not if I see you first," you shout back. This raises a great laugh among the newly free slaves that leaves Quamada seething even more. Maybe if they get lucky, Quamada and his crew will be picked up by the crew of the Pendragon when they come looking for me. On arriving back at the port, you turn the ship over to the former slaves. "You were forced to labour for Quamada all that time. Now sail her for yourselves," you tell them. Then you return along the quayside to the spot where you first arrived. Turn to 40. After a moment of darkness and disorientation, you are back in Knightmare Castle. Treguard comes towards you, hands outstretched to receive the egg. "Aha, you have returned," he says. "Let me see what you have achieved, young adventurer." If you hand Treguard a plain grey egg, turn to 50. If you give him an egg with golden speckling, turn to 97. If you have no egg to give him, turn to 96. I'm going to give him the egg with golden speckling. Treguard inspects the egg for a few seconds and then gives you a hearty slap on the back. "Well done," he booms. "Few adventurers are brave enough to enter a dragon's lair." "And even fewer live to tell of it," puts in Pickle. Treguard gives the imp a sharp, silencing look, then turns back to you, saying, "You have taken the Knightmare challenge and proved equal to it. Now you may count yourself among the champions of chivalry. You deserve such praise. It is a great moment indeed." There we go, Amy. I hope you enjoyed that. And now, as an added bonus, here's a treat specially for Keeper of the Book of Quests, David N. Rabbit, though the rest of you should feel free to enjoy it as well, of course. Thank you so much, David, for posting such a nice comment on my playthrough of The Labyrinths of Fear on Patreon, and for complimenting my Merlin voice. So, what else can I do but a quick playthrough of one of the 3 quests from the very first Knightmare book. And this really will be the last Knightmare gamebook playthrough I do on Temporal Discussion, because I don't want to labour the idea or cause it to outstay its welcome. I'm not going to read all through the introduction and rules for this one. Interestingly enough, it really is pretty much exactly the Adventurer's Code that was sent out to contestants for the Knightmare main TV show, the rules being unchanged in this Dave Morris's first toe in the water of creating a Knightmare choose-your-own-adventure section. The one notable change, of course, being you can carry spells to different levels, because that fits in with what Dave wanted to do. 1. Treguard offers you the Helmet of Justice, which you put on. Since you have no helpers to guide you in this challenge, the helmet does not blind you to the way ahead. There's the bit Kim mentioned on the main I Think I Read Somewhere book podcast. Now you turn to face the great dungeon door. There are 3 adventures you can attempt. A. Slightly difficult, go to 57. B. Harder, go to 20. Is that Martin harder or Kim harder? C. Difficult, go to 80. I'm going to attempt difficult. As I said, I'm just doing the one, and despite the fact that it's supposed to be difficult, I think it is actually the quickest. You are hurled into the next chamber. Yes, you missed the part about the giant hand hurling you from chamber to chamber if you don't play the slightly difficult adventure, of course, and find yourself confronted with a horrific giant scorpion, which scuttles towards you, its lethal sting raised. There is only one exit from this chamber, an open portal roughly 10 meters away. What will you do? Dash for the exit, go to 84. Try to dodge the scorpion, go to 100. 84 it is, I think. You charge through the portal and find yourself at one end of a long, narrow corridor. At the far end, at least 100 meters away, there is an exit portal. Hanging above your head, there is a huge bomb with its fuse burning brightly. On the floor beside you, there is a bucket of water. Glancing at the fuse, you estimate it has less than 10 seconds to burn. What will you do? Sprint for the exit, go to 71, use the bucket of water, go to 49. I'm going to put it out with the water. You hurl the bucket of water at the bomb and the fuse fizzles out. Now you can walk at your leisure to the exit. Go to 6. Welcome to a level 1 clue room. On an oak table in front of you are 3 objects and a nice ripe pineapple, but it's a temperate zone, which you eat. Life force status green. There's absolutely no point in keeping track of your life force status in this quest, listeners, as has been mentioned before. It's completely passive. If you do it right, the life force will replenish itself when it needs to. The other objects on the table are a large green gemstone, a large red gemstone, and a brass key. You can only take 2 objects. As you consider your choice, the walls crack and the craggy features of Granitas, the wall monster, thrust through the opening. I am Granitas of legend, he drones. Solve my riddle or I feed on you. To save yourself, you must name the smallest magic performed on hands. What will you answer? A. Card tricks. B. Wart charming. C. Conjuring. D. A cartwheel. Check page 144 for the answer. If you are correct, go to 64. If not, go to 52. Wart charming, I'm going to say. Truth accepted, groans Granitas reluctantly and slips away. As he goes, the voice of Tregard echoes round the chamber. Congratulations on surviving so far. Now you must learn the nature of your quest. It is not enough merely to survive the perils of the dungeon. You must also find and destroy the dread green eye, which has reappeared in the lowest level and is causing unmentionable evils. Make your choice of clue objects. Oh, thanks for reminding me what they are, Dave. And leave by the only exit. Go to 61. I'm going to take both gemstones. Will that do me any good? Let's find out. You pass through the darkness of the portal into the next chamber. This is a fine, square room with alternate red and white flagstones laid out like a checkerboard. There are 2 possible exits, one straight ahead, the other diagonally to your left. In the centre of the hall squats Folly the Jester. Hail to you, bold adventurer, he cries out, but on examining you closely turns up his nose in disgust. Did nobody ever teach you how to dress, he sneers. It's clear to me you've not a clue, for green and blue will never do. Folly jabs a finger at you. Green cannot live with blue, you know. The effect is simply deathly. Now, he adds, I suppose you want to know which door to use. It's quite simple, really. If you want to meet a brute, simply take the castle route. If a bishop you would be, take his steps for passage free. Which exit will you choose? Straight ahead, go to 54. Diagonally left, go to 14. Bishops move diagonally in chess, so I'm going to go to 14. The portal takes you into a dark, narrow corridor. Surprise, surprise, it's empty apart from a hamburger that sits on a ledge to your right. Yes, there's even junk food in the dungeon. Well, that's less surprising than a pineapple, isn't it? You eat the hamburger. Life force status green. Now go to 74. The sorceress, Lilith, dressed in blue, lounges elegantly against a rock on the far side of this huge cave. A deep, deep chasm prevents you from reaching her. You better have something with you to bribe her to create the magic causeway which will allow you to cross over. I thought there was going to be an alternative there. Or you're dead. If you offer her a key, go to 21. If you offer her a red gem, go to 31. If you offer her a green gem, go to 87. I better not offer her the green gem, had I, as she's wearing blue? I'll offer her the red gem. "A ruby!" cries Lilith. "How sublime!" And with a wave of her hand a shimmering causeway stretches across the chasm in front of you. As you reach the other side, Lilith rewards you with a Viking spell and points you towards the exit. Go to 79. Congratulations! You have found the wellway to level 2 and it is unguarded. Go to 86. You fall through the darkness and emerge into a brightly lit kitchen. There is an old woman sitting at a table in the centre of the room, and a young servant girl working at a huge cooking range to one side. There is a large, rusty broadsword lying on the table. Suddenly Traegard's voice rings through the kitchen. "Quick! Ask no questions! Take the sword and kill the girl!" What will you do? Do as the voice instructs you, go to 28. Question the girl first, go to 67. Oh, I better do as Traegard says, hadn't I? No, actually I don't think I will, because it's probably actually Mildred. "Take no notice of that voice," says the servant. "It's not really Traegard. That old witch over there, Mildred, is a voice changer. There's a spell on her to prevent her doing any real harm. Doesn't work very well, does it? But we can't stop her talking." As she speaks, the servant gives you a bowl of soup. Life force status green. There are 2 exits from this kitchen, but the servant warns you not to take the right-hand door as it leads to a mined chamber. Thank her and take the left-hand door. "Thank you, serving girl. I'm off to the left." Go to 60. Well done. You have reached the level 2 clue room. Take the opportunity to discard any level 1 objects you may still have with you. There was only an opportunity to use 1 on level 1, wasn't there? I'll discard that green gem, then. On the stone table in front of you there is a joint of raw meat, a brass horn, and a loaded crossbow. You may take a maximum of 2 objects. There are 2 exits to choose from. Which will you take? The left exit, go to 102. The right exit, go to 2. Right, well I shall take the meat and the horn, but not the weapon, and go right. You are in a dark cave. You move forward through the gloom cautiously. Suddenly a torch flares and reflects on a tall armoured figure which clanks towards you. Through the open visor grins a ghastly skull. It is obviously going to attack. If you use the crossbow, go to 27. If you use the meat, go to 34. If you use the horn, go to 41. If you cast the Viking spell, go to 65. I'm going to cast the Viking spell. As you cast the Viking spell, a stout warrior appears. He has a round, studded shield clasped to his breast, and a wicked-looking axe hanging from a thong at his wrist. You command him to attack. Within moments, your enemy is no more. You thank the Viking, and he disappears. You have used this spell, and will not be able to cast it again. As you search for an exit, you discover a small sprig of green plant growing from a crack in the rock by a small door. You touch the plant. Life force status green. Go through the door to 95. Danger! This cave is swarming with wombles, the carnivorous variety, cavern whites. Although totally blind and deaf, these deadly creatures have an acute sense of smell and are already advancing. There are at least 10 of them between you and the only obvious exit, which is at least 8 more than you ever see at once on the show. What will you do? Use the horn if you have it and try for the door, go to 11. Try the crossbow if you have it, go to 63. Use the meat if you have it, go to 19. I am going to use the meat and hope the cavern whites decide it'll make a better dinner than I do. Good thinking. You hurl the joint of fresh meat into a far corner of the cave. Now, assuming that you have been washing regularly, the cavern whites should take its scent instead of yours. To your relief, the cavern whites drift towards the meat and your exit path is clear. Pass through the portal and go to 70. Your way is blocked by a high stone wall which runs across the centre of the cave. It is topped with iron spikes and there is no way to climb it. There is a sign attached to the wall which reads Jericho District 8. What will you do now? If you use the crossbow, go to 53. If you use the horn, go to 47. If you have neither of these, your adventure ends here. If you don't have the horn, your adventure ends here, actually, but I do. Raising Joshua's fabled horn, you blow a loud blast and the wall comes tumbling down. Most satisfying. Beyond the rubble lies the wellway to level 3, which you take. Go to 85. At the bottom of the wellway, you plunge into a deep pile of straw. There are some hard things here, and as you rummage through the straw, you discover a circular shield decorated with a single blue eye. You also find a longbow and a quiver of arrows. You may take all these objects with you. Clambering out of the pile of straw, you survey the rest of the cavern. A shallow stream of swift-running water flows through the cavern before cascading into a deep pit at one end. The stream enters through a low archway, and this appears to be the only possible exit. On a rock by the water's edge, you discover a small loaf of bread, which you eat. Life force status green. Ducking your head, you step into the stream. Go to 103. Some 10 meters into the watery passage, you spot a small door set into the rock wall. You open it and are thrown through a portal into a square chamber. The chamber is empty and has 2 exits. The exit to the left is open, the one to the right is blocked by a heavy iron portcullis. Glancing upwards, you can see a wooden lever, which might control the portcullis, but it is way beyond your reach. If you take the left exit, go to 4. If you try something else, go to 22. Bit non-specific there, Dave. I'm going to go to 22 and try the one option, using the bow and arrow. Unstrapping the longbow from your shoulder, you knock an arrow to the string and take careful aim at the lever. You must be a champion shot because the arrow flies true, strikes the lever, and the ancient mechanism grinds as the heavy iron portcullis opens. You may keep the bow as there are plenty of arrows left. We're not going to use it again, though. Which exit will you take now? The exit on the left, go to 4. The exit on the right, go to 94. Well, unlike Scott's team, having gone through all that effort to clear the right-hand exit, I am going to use it. You are hurled through the portal into a small antechamber bathed in a strange green light, which pours from the dread green eye in the middle of the wall ahead. Even as you look at it, you feel your willpower and your life force draining away. That just happens all the time once you're over 40, believe me. What will you do? Use the bow and fire at the eye? Go to 98. Use the shield? Go to 83. Ooh, I think I'll use the shield. You raise the shield before you. A bright blue light radiates from its surface as it responds to the threat from the green eye. For a few seconds, green fights blue. Then there is a loud splitting and cracking, and the green eye shatters into 1,000 pieces. Right, this is what we've been building up to. "Congratulations," says the voice of Merlin. "You have prevailed, and the entire dungeon salutes you. You are a true hero and have completed your adventure." There wasn't very much Merlin to do there, was there? Sorry about that, David and Rabbit. However, regardless of that,
if you've been enjoying the podcast, leave us a rating and review on your platform of choice. It really helps us grow and reach more people who might enjoy what we're doing.
We're Knightmare Pod on Threads and Twitter, and you can find us on Instagram at Temporal Discussion.
You can follow us on Blue Sky at nightmarepod.bsky.social and on Mastodon at topspicy.social/@nightmarepod.
We hate when ads interrupt podcasts, so we're keeping this one ad-free with the help of our supporters on Patreon. You can join them by supporting us at Knightmare Pod.
Speaking of which, here's a shout out to Keepers of the Book of Quest, David and Rabbit, Paul McIntosh, Peter Pulsford and Scott Evans.
Advisors Benjamin Bloom, David Thompson, Kim Harder, Kim Stewart Crossley, Lord Entropy, where the O of entropy, not Lord, I might mention, is a 0, Paul Craddy, Peter Sidorn, and Pig Ben is.
Hello, Piggy.
And let's not forget our bold Dungeoneers, Peter Corridge, Dan Heath, Adam Battersby, and Adam D. If you'd like to hear your name mentioned on the podcast, support us at Dungeoneer level or above on Patreon.
Patreon supporters also get access to exclusive episodes, merchandise, and if you pledge as a Keeper of the Book of Quests, you'll even get the chance to join us as a guest on the show if you so wish.
Our website is knightmarepod.co.uk, and you can find Temporal Discussion merchandise, including t-shirts, stickers and more, at knightmarepod.redbubble.com.
You can also drop us an email at podcast@knightmarepod.co.uk.
And just keep telling yourself, it's only a podcast, isn't it?